Hey friends, welcome to another episode of the 10 Laws podcast with East Forest. I'm at the east of the forest. This week we have a conversation with Camille Maurine. Camille was on the podcast before and I had a great conversation. I wanted to check in with her and we got into it deep, such an embodied, beautiful conversation. And at the end of it, she guides us through a bit of a guided meditation that was so warm and wonderful. So definitely stick around for that. I'm sure you will enjoy it. Just to let you know, a little housekeeping. The show that we're doing this winter in Salt Lake City, we were trying to do it in December, but the venue we are looking at, I kid you not, the governor in the city, the county, whatever, is commandeering the venue for the use of overflow hospital beds. And let me tell you, this is an enormous venue. So that's a crazy thing. It's just like, it feels like World War II or something. They're taking essentially a massive warehouse and being like, hey, we might need that for sick people, which is a wild sign of the times. So right now we're kind of looking at January and a couple dates. We're trying to just lock that down. But you can pledge your interest in coming to the show. That helps us know that we can do it. And you can check that out at eastforest.org/tour, and you'll see all the information about that. And it's not a financial commitment until we actually pick the date and the venue and announce that. But this way you get first dibs on that and also let us know that this is a viable experience. So check that out if you're interested in coming to our first COVID-compliant, massive type thing. It's just a big undertaking. So shout out to Adam St. Simons for heading that up. Also, thanks to everyone who's been buying merch for the holidays. We can still get it out for you. My dad is shipping, whatever you need to get out. And we really appreciate that support. Now that we really aren't doing any of these events since March, it's been a big hit on the revenue stream to support the whole East Forest world. So thank you. That's also at eastforest.org. Just hit the store button and you'll see what we have, including those new Ram Dass prints and the perfume oils and the vinyl lover. We have those packages so you can create some more savings. There's even one called the whole enchilada where you can get almost just pretty much everything. I think you save like $30 or $40. So hopefully maybe it could be some fun gifts and a way for you to just say thanks. So let me say thanks to you in advance. We're coming up on the solstice here, which is a time of introspection, of renewal, really, as we cross through this Rubicon of cosmological experience. And I'm sure, like all of us, we're looking forward to going from the exhale to the inhale kind of thing. It's needed. We've been going through so much, and we have so much more to go through, and so many people are needing so much in so many different ways. So I hope that you're doing what you can to create that space to go inward and to listen to what's always there and to listen to what is there now. And that's really what I'm trying to do is create that space for you, give you different tools and experiences and conversations to have your own self-empowerment and self-discovery. Thanks for giving this podcast a review. It makes a big difference. You can do that on Apple Podcasts, and thanks for sharing it. Thanks for saying hi with your questions and ideas or guest suggestions. You can do that at team@eastforest.org and East Forest on Instagram and East Forest Music on Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube. Okay, let's get into this wonderful conversation with our dear friend, Camille Maurine. Thank you, Camille, for joining me yet again on the podcast. I think it's been not 2 years, but maybe a year or so, year and a half, I don't remember.
Something
but
like
it was
that.
pre-pandemic, and a lot has changed. I just want to check in first and see how you're doing. How are you?
Thank you, Trevor. Really happy to be with you again. Actually, really well. We're, Lorin and I, I mean, it's like, shall I actually admit how well we're doing? Because I'm very aware of the people that are not, so that's intense. But we're here, our little sanctuary in Marina del Rey, not too far from the beach, and we have each other.
That's big.
That's very big. In fact, one of the things that my heart aches about with other people is if they don't have someone there to hold and to touch and to be held, or a furry creature, at least, a furry creature can satisfy a lot of that instinctive need to actually be in touch, to communicate, to feel that intimacy.
Yeah, I don't know if this is true, but I've heard that study about babies, if they're not touched, that they'll die. I don't know if that's true, but maybe it is, but regardless, it sort of clues us into the importance of touch. And I couldn't imagine how difficult it would be to, just like you said, to be without a furry animal or a partner or something, even a family member that you're in a bubble with. If you were truly alone, it would be absolutely crushing. And I wonder what kind of information or stats we'll get on this in like 5-10 years from now. Like what we'll learn about human psychology and our needs.
Yeah. Well, I do hear it a lot because, as you know, we have a global community and we offer, webinars and different things, open calls, and which I'm so happy about this technology that allows us to connect like this, particularly now. Yeah.
So what I wanted to ask you, let's dive into one of the bigger questions. Given, I get the sense, correct me if you think I'm wrong, that we're nowhere out of the woods. Forget about just this pandemic, but as far as like the fire that is burning and what we're going through as humanity, this great transition that we find ourselves really getting into the deep end now. And I think we're going to have more of it. It'll just be new things that continue to confront us as people, as individuals, and as communities. So what are some of these methods or even meditation ideas or just sort of ways that you're finding are successful for people to walk through this, which is with as much grace as possible? If you have been working with groups, people, communities, or even with yourself, it's sort of a little bit of fortune telling, but also I think it's what's been working lately.
Well, unfortunately, I tend to agree with you in that we are in a crucible. We're in a crucible, humanity as a whole. Everything that we do affects everybody else on a global level. And the ecology, the things that are going on in the environment, which are not a surprise, but, in the last 4 or 5 years, there's been a lot of neglect of some of the things that we've needed to take care of. And, there's a whole cadre of people who are very aware and doing their darndest in the environmental world and in all kinds of other ways of creating community and connecting and having that strength of being together in dealing with some of these things. So, yes. And it's true that, both Lorin and I speak with people a lot about this very question that you're asking. It's such a critical awareness and question that you're bringing up here, Trevor. For example, my inner practices are crucial. They're just essential. And always have been, honestly, just to live and love and create and be part of life. There's nothing quite as far-reaching and I feel like far-reaching into the core of our being as meditation. And in our case, a big element of that is based on what you love and being with what you love, and that sense of connection with your own marvelous essential being, your own individual nature, as well as with nature as a whole, being fed and nourished by some of the beauty and awe that nature provides for us. It's so instinctive and natural. So making a point of having that kind of connection, giving oneself time to really absorb whatever, you mentioned grace, whatever supports us, whatever inspires us, whatever gives us a sense of yes to life at this, crazy, wacky time. So for me, that my personal practices, I don't know if I told you this last time, but we have a little resident tribe of hummingbirds. One in particular, they don't, for some reason, they don't seem to be the migrating time. So he is, there's one in particular I call him the mighty one. And he and I meditate together pretty much every day, sunrise. As soon as he wakes up and as soon as I wake up, I go out on our little patio here.
Wow.
and then at sunset, after sunset, sitting with him, and we have feeders out, and so the tribe comes and they feed there, and he chases people away, or he does a mating dance. They do these amazing little mating dances. One of them, yeah. There's one of them. It's like, we call it a loop-de-loop. He makes a big U, back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, and then zoom straight up really high. And then he zooms back down to near where the feeders are, and as if saying, look, babe, I've got the goods. Come be with me. So he's a continual source of joy. And I'm saying that because, if we can make a point of finding those things that give us joy, there are so many concerns and, the way things have moved, particularly this year, on just about every level. It's very challenging.
Yeah, you got to find points of joy. Perhaps maybe the trick for people is like concurrently finding joy in the face of suffering or in the face of anxiety. Because I think that's what maybe you're finding. I know for myself, there's sort of this background noise of the knowledge of what's happening.
Yeah.
It was already there with ecological crisis and social disparity and economic disparity, but now it's like really in our face and affecting everybody. So it's we still have the haves and the have-nots, but in some ways there's this glue that connects us of connectivity of despair. Whether it's the political division, and most people are kind of like, how do we get out of this? How do we get through this? Anyway, name your crisis. So what are ways that you think you could recommend that we can connect with joy? And maybe this isn't that complicated, though, in the face of defeat, in the face of so much pain.
Yeah. Well, that's, so there's one thing. There's one's own sort of private inner world, what we do with all of these energies in our bodies and our hearts, what we do when we're in anxiety and worry. And there are very, very effective, powerful practices that can come to meet those things without trying to whitewash or get rid of them, split off from them. So one thing about that is helpful for me is that when we realize that we have these worries, we have these concerns, that even if I sit in some quiet moment, of course they're going to come up. Whatever's in the background is going to come up. And I might feel the tensions in my body, the ways that I've been trying to hold it together. And so bringing a lot of tenderness to ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
Tremendous. And we get better and better at that when we realize how important that is. I mean, tremendous tenderness. So even the touch of awareness, our thoughts have texture. They have texture. And so how I come to meet myself, whatever is going on, with this great tenderness. These are things I care about. And often it's arising from from my love, my love of my family, my love of this earth, my love of freedom, my love of justice and equal rights and things like that. Those things that for each of us matter. They matter. And that's a big, big challenge that I think many, if not most people are facing. And then complementary to that with the tender touch, it is remembering the things that are meaningful, the connections that we do have. I hear a lot about grief. I hear a lot about fury, at let's say the political charade that was, and we're kind of on the other side of that. But like you said, not really. There's going to be so many things to address. I just hear the gamut of emotions and energies coming up for people. So embodied practices make a lot of difference because it gets us a way to move the energies instead of being stuck.
I hear in there a kind of discipline in your perspective. Like, I think I can feel a cascading of anxiety when I know there's a part of me that knows it's a perspective shift that needs to happen. But for some reason, either I can't do it or I'm unwilling to do it, or it feels too overwhelming in the moment, or like grief, it needs to just play out. Like the water needs to empty from the bucket fully before I can really do anything about it. And maybe that's where that tenderness comes in. Is kind of like I'm witnessing this happening, but I think the trick is in somehow not fully identifying with that happening in a way. It's like you have your humanity, which is all of the mess, let's call it, like the surface level, like the anger and the fury. And then amidst that, you have that other seat that maybe you're seeing this happen. But God knows we've all had times where we're fully in our humanity. There's nothing else that can be heard or seen. And it seems like a lot of these triggers of the fight or flight type stuff that we're going through push us into that really animal state of what it means to be human. And there has to be that kind of cultivation of something larger, or like you said, moving it. Like how do we move it when these things are very present for us and maybe they feel stuck?
Wow. Yes. Yes. Having the big picture, having a big picture that can hold it all, something that has meaning for us. Some perspective that is a sanctuary, that is a refuge, that is also an anchor, you could say. And so that's a constant evolutionary practice for what is that for me today? What is that? And I agree with you. It's because that's what's holding us as we navigate and move with the collective energies that we're all inescapably part of. But then finding also not only in our individual self, but in a collective awareness that this is also a very creative time.
Ah, wow.
It's an extremely creative time, and people all over the place that I talk to are answering that call. There's a call. Oh my, it's like totally, as you're saying, like totally in our face. the things that have kind of slid along, and we do this, that, and the other thing to try to make it better. But everything this year has been intensified. And having that that way of feeling, like I actively join with people, podcasts, and other ways of connecting and communicating that let us feel like I'm not isolated. I'm not just on my own. I don't have to hold this all myself, which is a tremendous burden.
Mm-hmm.
And simultaneously, the moving the energy part. And you said the bucket is full and just has to empty out. Sometimes that's a, yes. And sometimes, for some of us, that means actually tears, giving in. That's part of the tenderness, giving in and just letting it move unashamedly, just shamelessly. It's knowing that it's part of our inner ecology. So, yeah.
I just made connecting those words of grief and creativity.
Yeah.
Like in one help spurs the other.
Yeah.
And creativity being more than just creating artistic things, but the creativity of creating life, of thoughts, everything.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's exactly right. Yeah. And even if there's grief, there's just absolute heartbreak of, let's say, losing someone close to us. Somebody who's now on the other side, let's say. If we let ourselves feel that, then something really profound can happen. Because once again, it's a way that we have, if we, like there was one year, several years ago, I lost several very powerful connections, friends, women friends, actually, who, died. And it was devastating on one level, because I miss them. I miss the conversations. I miss their presence. I miss being able to hug them and talk about what's happening now. And,
Yeah.
and it's a tough go. But also within that, there can be once again, kind of a swelling, something from that ache of the heart. There's like a swelling open and feeling, oh my gosh, this is my love. And I feel their love. And I feel this incredible reality of being love. We are all in this body of love together. We are all part of this miraculous, mysterious adventure of life on Earth. And, so that ache of the heart, some of the Radiant Sutras talk about this, that the ache of the ache of your heart is holy.
Yeah. In essence, it's God itself yearning to be God itself in a way.
Yeah.
But somehow the purpose too, somehow like the essence of what it means to be here.
Exactly. Yeah. So when all of this hit in, February, March, in shock like everybody else, realizing what was going on, there was that time, I don't know if you experienced this, Trevor, when we started hearing from, let's say, for China, for example, that finally their skies were clearing, or in Bali, some different places where they could finally see the mountains that they hadn't been able to see for decades.
Right.
And I thought, oh my gosh, look what nature has created. The only thing that could stop us in our tracks from this, monstrous, unconscious, devastation that we were inflicting on the atmosphere. And so there was that really strong feeling then, okay, so this is a pause. It's like horrifying as it is, with people getting affected by COVID and, all of that. And we have a lot of friends who are in the healing profession and are doctors and, in that right on the front lines there. And it's not pretty. Mm-hmm. It's not pretty, and it's not going to get pretty anytime soon. So, then there was a feeling, however, that underneath that, we were all in this, like we suddenly realized how interdependent we are on this, globally.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Globally. I mean, in a way, in a visceral way, not just a lofty spiritual idea. It's like a nitty gritty. Oh my God, we really are. And darn it, I'm going to wear my mask,
Yeah, if only everyone felt that. But you're right. In many ways, it has connected us quite literally around the globe when we are already connected in economic ways and climate ways and in more ways. And I just keep thinking, like, here we are. We're perhaps people are seeing us moving through this pandemic, and I'm just thinking about the next challenges that come, like this greater turning of a page that's happening over generations that seems to be having a quickening. I just know this is one part of a larger journey. And so, like, the tools that what's being asked of us it's really profound, but it's also quite simple. And so if this time has been a kind of space between the breaths, in a way, a kind of rest, we're going to have either an exhalation or an inhalation next, and more movement will come, more change, really. And we're navigating change and letting go of what was.
Yeah, for sure. Mm-hmm.
What do you think is being asked of us as individuals in that privacy of our own hearts? Like, what's really being asked of us?
Yeah. So, a couple things, and I also want to hear more about what you're predicting, like what you're seeing. But that sense, once again, that not only are we as a body of humanity being called to evolve, and figure out ways to work together on behalf of everyone. But I think we are, my sense, my story is that we are all, each of us, being called to evolve in awareness, evolve in our love, evolve in what we care about, evolve in opening to that big picture and the way that you're saying. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And so in that sense, I feel it is a creative call. Finding ways to access our intrinsic empowerment, our intrinsic creativity. It's within each one of us, something, some way. But we are asked to get that. I actually feel it like energetically, as if I'm asked to get bigger, and at the same time more closer in, staying so closely in touch with myself and the flow of my energies, so closely in touch with what matters to me and what I care about. And then I'm inspired. There's a sense of inspiration for, what is mine to do? How can I play my part in some way? Mm-hmm. And, we're all having to kind of recreate our lives according to these new conditions. We have a lot of yoga teachers that are part of our community. Everybody, their studios were they'd had to let go of these beautiful studios they had created, and, but finding ways to somehow make a living, somehow being able to offer something of value to others. We each have something of value. Every single person on the planet has something of value, whether it's, a simple daily smile at somebody on the street, like above the mask, the ways the eyes can smile. And then I dance, I try to dance my hello and thank yous, So yes, I do think accessing those possibilities that are lodged inside of us are going deeper into our inner roots, drawing up that, some life-giving substance, and then bringing it, letting it spread out and reach and offer something somewhere.
Yeah, it feels counterintuitive what I want to say, but I feel in my heart that it actually isn't as important, like how far and wide that action spreads physically in the world. In some ways, like there are private actions that feel just as important to me. I know that doesn't make literal sense, but it makes intuitive sense to me to say that, like that. It starts from that place, that interior space of your own heart, where only you know, really, if that's coming from the wellspring of what is right or what is love for you, or what is condemnation for you, or whatever it is. Only you know. And I feel like that's the thing that we actually all know. It's just kind of peeling away the onion to believe it and hear it, and what comes out of that. That's sort of the core kernel of all action and thought and manifestation. And in some ways, if that's where it stays in that particular moment, that's okay, because that's the original healing in a way. Maybe the original sin is like not hearing that, not knowing that, like not creating from a place of your own sense of you, of truth. And we have this idea these days that like it all has to be quantified. Like, how big is it? Well, it's better if it reached this many likes or this many people, or whereas the unique gift you may have doesn't need to be compared to someone with this massive audience. It's more about,
right.
It could be how you treat your dog.
Yes.
Maybe.
Yes. Well, yes. I agree with you. And imposing on ourselves that pressure to do it like somebody else is doing it.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's it. That basically never works. because then we're sort of outside of ourselves. We're outside of ourselves in some abstract idea, and yes, we might admire someone and feel, well, what is that? What would be my version of that? But again, you want to stay really close in. I think that's the general message here. Really close in to your own body, your own heart, your own brilliant, creative brain, and tending your whole nervous system. The nervous system has been going through, a lot of upheaval, personally,
Right.
in an individual body, and also in the global nervous system of our technology is really buzzing along. So, yeah, how do I take care of this precious instrument that I am, and how do I honor, sort of like the song I need to sing, or the dance I need to dance, or the note I need to write to a friend, or whatever it is. Simple and small is beautiful. It's really beautiful. In fact, if there's a gap between how I'm acting in my ordinary, just walking along like a little, like a little bump on the earth, if there's a gap between my daily tiny actions and this idea of having a bigger impact, we want to sort of bridge that gap,
Absolutely.
because then there's integrity. There's integrity. We're all one. Integrity comes from integer, like the number one. There's one. It's all of a wholeness, and then we feel, okay.
In addition to integrity, there seems to be alchemy.
Alchemy.
Like sort of like the four agreements. Like by being impeccable about your word, the first agreement, that does something. Like there's a magic to it, and he's sort of saying like it might seem not important. Well, my action's more important than my words. It's like, but he's sort of trying to describe in this simple, Don Miguel Ruiz, I believe, yes, is trying to describe the magic formula in a way for, these constituent parts of how to live in right livelihood. Not just because that's moral or something, but because that's how it unlocks a kind of creation. Like that. So you're talking about like us working in this inner space, and we're both talking about this. And I feel like what we're trying to say or realize by talking about it is that it is actually not isolating. It feels like, oh, this is all about me internal, which would feel like I'm more separate. But for some reason, the inside is the way outside, right? And that's the trick. We keep doing the opposite typically in Western society. We go outside to heal the inside, looking to these external things, but it's the opposite. And the less separate we can feel, like as simple things, like you said, writing a friend or hanging out in any way we can on Zoom, and the golden rule of helping others, that's how you engender those feelings in yourselves. It's easy to forget. These are methods to walk through challenging times. Hanging with the hummingbird.
Yeah.
Right? These are all the same thing.
Yeah. And I love how you're saying that, Trevor. And there's a sense of having an awareness and actually sort of a decision, a gift to yourself to pause and actually receive.
Yeah, that's big. Yeah.
Yeah. Receive. Yeah.
Charles Eisenstein would talk about that. Like what does it mean to receive a gift and how we discount it so easily. Even just when someone says, "You look great," and a typical response would be like, "Oh, no, I don't," or "It's no," or we start to throw things away. And what does it mean to really receive? And that could be as simple as receiving a hello. That you're actually really receiving it. And I'm not trying to push it into the hippy-dippy where you're crossing energetic boundaries of like making it weird. But it's just like, it's like just take it in. Like, oh, that feels good. That feels good.
Yes. Yes, that's it. It feels good. What feels good to you? What feels good to you? Get curious. Go deeper. Go for it. Shamelessly. Yeah.
You mentioned on your website this term integrative energy. Could you just say a little bit more about that? Because it's a little bit broad, but I have a feeling there's something there that connects to what we're talking about.
Well, it's let's see how to say that. It's the integration of all levels of our being, mainly. Let's see, how can I make this more? For example, we may have our a spiritual perspective. With that, there may also be what I call a soulful. There's like a spiritual meaning like that. There's usually an understanding of that, of the there's sort of the what is above. I would say it's again what we're tending is that sense of this mystery of being part of this larger field of life and of love. And the depths, being willing to go into that soulful connection where we are, there's a kind of going down and in, closer to the earth, even like under the under the earth, where that, the things that have died are being transformed back into life.
Composted.
Something new can grow. Something new can grow. And so knowing that, how do I cooperate with that process? And things like our grief, can take us into that very transformative experience. And so yes, having a way to, in my case, I've really explored what it is to have a creative expression of the very intense energies at a certain time of my life. And when I started, I actually created a performance about my mother's life and death, and 3 generations of women, my grandmother, my mother, and myself. And my mother's really intense. Her passions led her into, a very fiery, tragic end. So I had that living in me, but until I started dancing, I didn't know it. So,
oh boy.
So having a way, a creative way, again, how do I create a context for myself and for other people to come and embody and express in a creative way that's not about acting these energies out in the world and in ways that are destructive to them or to me, ways that are harmful to them or to me. And that's a mighty task. So it's the integration of all those levels. It's how I'm thinking, getting curious about the movement of thought, getting curious about the movement of my emotions, getting curious about what's going on in my body and places that are calling for attention, and places that, energies and emotions that have been buried usually for good reason, because we had to control and conform and be safe, but at a certain point, we're ready. And, sometimes that message comes from actual physical conditions or sensations and tensions. So it's that integration of all those levels.
Yeah, sounds easy.
Yeah, right. Yeah. So that's a lifetime of exploration that I've been, called to explore and share in some way. And in fact, if I'm with a person or a group individually, it's not that abstract. It's actually quite immediate, and there are skills, or you could say the art of being with ourselves in that loving, creative attention.
Right. Is that something that can also be cultivated in some form of meditation, like individually?
Well, it's the same. Yeah, it's the same. It's because oops, sorry, I don't know if that made a little squish.
That's okay.
Oh, I see.
Microphone scratch.
I see my headphones sort of squish it too close to my face. Oh, well, there we go.
It's still working.
Okay, good. That same dance is going on inside of us all the time, you see. So when we make time for ourselves, we give ourselves sacred space, sanctuary, even if it's just for a few minutes of meditation. That's, meditation is that time to feel and to savor this moment of being alive, savor what that life is offering on the simplest level. This breath, these colors, being able to drink water, this just the simplest things can be kind of an awakening inside of us. Yeah. And so one thing that we've found that people need to know is that the movement of thoughts, people think are told or have the impression that you want to stop your thoughts, because they're anxious thoughts. I don't want those thoughts. But the fact is that your thoughts are an attempt of your own body, brilliant nervous system, your whole being, to bring things to awareness and to be tended. And very often if we just, so there are ways of cooperating with that. And it can be very simple. The main thing is finding something about life that is nourishing or inspiring, something that you want to give your wholehearted, whole-bodied yes to, which could mean how you looking at a sunset, or remembering when you were with the sunset, remembering some of those times when you felt most alive, sometimes when you felt most happy to be alive, grateful to be alive, when you felt most touched by love, when you felt in awe at the night sky, or really simple thing. Everybody has those experiences, something,
Mm-hmm.
and so that gives your whole being that context, and then your body psyche will come into deeper balance.
It'd be great if you're open to it. I think last time we ended with a meditation, but I feel like it'd be great if we could enter into that space recognizing those things that are nourishing, or pulling up a memory, or just the breath, and just the wonderful, enriching, nourishing part of this.
This.
Yeah, the great it.
And the great it. Well, sure. I'd love to do that.
But it'd be a great way to end. But
okay.
Before we do that, I just wanted to follow up on something you said.
Yeah.
That's a pretty profound idea about, like, our thoughts are this wellspring of communication, and not to be sloughed aside. But that does go in the face of a lot of traditional meditation teaching, right? And I think for a lot of us, we do see this monologue in our mind as pejorative and painful, typically, if not at least distracting. So can you say more about how the sacredness of it, or how do you hold that in a way that it isn't just a thorn in your side?
Yeah. Well, of course, some thoughts are, there is a challenge to accepting, I'm really worried about this, or, oh, damn, I blew it with such and such, or, all of our self-shaming kinds of things that come up, or I'm angry, or I'm frustrated, or, whatever the thoughts are, usually have, there's that kind of thought. And then there's just a sort of, again, and it's an integrative process that your brain and your whole body will seize the opportunity. Just as when we're asleep and dreaming, the brain is actually very busy integrating our experience and creating, guess what, a new map of the world. Like learning from our past experiences, and it's different parts of the, different lobes of the brain and different parts of the brain are in a very active dance to reorganize and to learn from experience, and to actually therefore give us more sense of creative ideas and ways to move forward. When we're meditating, so when you're asleep, you don't interfere with that process. We have this fabulous thing called awareness. It's just a miracle in itself. The fact that we can be even, talking like this is a miracle, as far as I'm concerned, and a mystery. What is this awareness? So when you're meditating, you can, because we have this thing called awareness, we can interfere with that healing integrative process. We can interfere by judging it, by trying to suppress it. So That's why we give ourselves a context, something that is, you could say your mantra, your yes to life, your something life-giving, life-saving, something that you love. As you invoke that, like I said, with a mantra, maybe it's a gesture that helps you feel more connected or more open to receiving the gifts of life, or more open to the flow of your own gifts back to life. Something usually very simple, and then allowing that thought process and knowing that these thoughts that are coming up are because I care about something. I care about something, and that they're little pockets of our love, little firing pockets of energy that I like to think of, and I do experience. It's like it's my love, it's my connectedness. Otherwise, I wouldn't care.
Right? It's true.
Yeah. So I don't know if that makes any sense when I talk about it.
It does. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So, yes. And so that we're always learning. We're always learning. I learn so much every day in my meditations. I learn so much. Life will teach you. We do cultivate the art of attention, the skill of allowing and appreciating what's going on. Yeah. Yeah. So it's like every day, my meditation, this whole process teaches me what it is to be alive, this great mystery. Teaches me what it is to love, to open to love, to be, receive more love, to express more love, to feel really close to my own essential nature. And when I am that, then it's like, well, what is that movement for me today? In what way can I stay in touch with myself more deeply today in all of the challenges in my to-do lists? But there's a way of being with that, of flowing with it, of dancing with everything that comes up that makes me feel, okay, this is my life. This is my life in concert with the larger dance of life. Singing my little song in the great symphony, whatever it is. Yeah. So
I feel like if we could, maybe we could just shift right into a little bit of a guided meditation. I'm already in it, so
why don't you lead it?
Yeah. No. I mean, you're doing it. I just want to I just want to give you the space to continue to riff on that. And I just want to sit with that in a bit. What does it mean to, to do our dance, to riff with life, but more about the receiving of that gift?
Yeah. The most, the handiest technique is when we become aware of this flow that we call breathing. You mentioned that, earlier. Mm-hmm. And breath, what we call breath is relationship. Breath, breathing, the action of breathing is I receive. So naturally, when I do that, my body likes to open my hands and my arms, and I kind of reach forward, open palms. I receive, and I bring that breath right in. I breathe in. I receive breath. It's one way that I know that it's the primary way. I know that I'm alive. I receive life. And you can just let the exhalation be whatever it wants to be. And I receive love. And my arms are joining with that dance. My hands, I receive breath. It flows into my body, mingles with my own energies. And then I exhale. I receive life. I receive love. So expanding, saying yes to our capacity to receive from this cosmos, from this earth. Very primary, very primordial, this connection, this body that I am, this being that I am, woven into this larger flow of life and love. So for some of us, that receiving is very tender and powerful. And then we can also bring our attention to the complement, which is after receiving. My exhalation, I give back, I give breath. All the green growing things, the algae in the oceans, the breath of the earth. I receive, I give breath. I receive. I give life. I receive. Hands coming in. I give love. My hands flowing out. I receive breath. I give breath. I receive life. I receive life. I give life. I receive love. I give love. I receive love. I give love. And then simply being with whatever is moving in you right now. Just letting your breath flow be whatever it wants to be as you feel. Whatever is present. Life wants you. Life wants you just as you are. You are the dance of life. You are the dance of love. And as we are coming together right now, this way that you have called us, Trevor, we can feel that connection among us all around our beloved planet. In this moment, in this awareness, together.
Thank you. It feels just like allowing.
Yes.
All this change, all these feelings. The more I try to hold the water, it just falls through my hands. It's like let it flow. Let the river flow. Which is very nourishing feeling for me.
Yes, beautiful. Let the river flow.
Well, thank you very much for that, for the generosity of taking us there.
Oh, my pleasure.
I know you guys have lots of wonderful events and more meditations, and I'm sure in the future talks, and you've got some wonderful books, and I'll link to your ecosystem. I hope people continue to dive in.
Yes. And actually, for those who are interested, we're because of the pandemic, we've been restructuring our meditation teacher training to provide it all live online starting at the end of January. So that's something that some of you who want to go deeper into your own meditation practice, this is with both Lorin and me, and or if you want to be receive really in-depth training to become a meditation teacher. So you can contact us, and meditationtt.com is the primary website for that. And yes.
Is that also through your website, or is that just a separate website?
Yes, it is. We've just been creating all of the infrastructure right now. So you and I are here together on December 1st. It's all going live like tonight.
Okay.
So, but we'll be updating various places.
Great.
Yeah, but thank you, Trevor. And this is we're calling it is the Radiant Sutras meditation teacher training. Radiant Sutras being Lorin's astonishing, beautiful rendition of the Vijnana Bhaira Tantra. And then, and then my offerings as well from we've both been meditating approximately forever.
And combined, it's forever.
and sharing, our life experience of all of that. Yeah.
Well, great. I look forward to sharing that with people, and it's great to see you again, and I'm glad to see you so vibrant. So thank you.
It's wonderful to see you and be with you, Trevor, and thank you so much for offering this. It's good work, a good gift, a beautiful gift.
Well, thank you, Camille, for sharing us such an open heart, both for the conversation and for the meditation. Check out their meditation training that they're doing. They've got a ton of experience, and they have so much to give. This song that you're hearing in the background is called Tillage, and it is from the Spores album, which is a sort of a highlights reel of the Music for Mushrooms album, the ceremony album. I've received such beautiful messages from so many of you over the last few months about how you've utilized particularly the Music for Mushrooms record and the Spores record in your own ceremony space, and how it's been helpful to you and meaningful to walk you home, as it were. And it did the same thing for me in its creation, and it warms my heart so much to hear that it's out there like a child I kicked out into the ocean on a boat, and it's out there sailing around, touching your hearts soul to soul, as we all experience our remembrance of what is. Just this. Okay, friends, thanks again for the support. Thanks for all the ways you say hi and the ways you join our community online and on social media to help spread this message of love. You guys keep walking. I'll catch you next week. And don't take any shit, but if you do it with grace.